We are now in the Middle East, my friend. Shawarma with a little falafel, some tahini and everything else. Okay. That's good. All right, good morning, everybody. This is going to be a slightly different Rubin Report than usual. I am 6 hours in the future right now, so it is not 11 a.m. Eastern here in Tel Aviv right now. It's about, I think it's about noon or so. And yes, I am in Tel Aviv, Israel. This is the sea, the Mediterranean Sea. You know, the river to the sea people, they never know what river they're talking about. It's the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. That's this right here. I'm on the beach. It's an absolutely beautiful day. We did a couple days in Hungary, which we're going to release all sorts of videos of, but we thought for today that I would kind of just walk around. This is the boardwalk. Joey, maybe you want to give just like a bit of a longer shot there. This is the boardwalk, which basically goes all the way down to Jaffa, which is all the way down there. And if you were to really keep going south, this is the exact same beach, the exact same coast that Gaza is on. So when you see all those videos, it's like, this is what they could have had, and they kind of did have before they just decided to go on their genocidal mission. It's really been absolutely wonderful here. But, you know, before I start walking and everything else, let me quickly tell you about Hungary. We did CPAC. I met with Prime Minister Viktor Orban. We did a live Rubin Report with about 10 guests on the fly. It was awesome. All these videos will be going up. I'm sure the guys will throw some pictures in here so you can see some of that. And what's incredible about Hungary, before I get to Israel, is that it is a tiny country of less than 10 million people that is just trying to protect its borders and protect its culture and not be overtaken like we're watching happen to so many other countries. And then to come here, it's about a 3-hour flight. And then, you know, that's Central Europe. We come here to the Middle East with a tiny country of about 10 million people that is just trying to protect its borders and its way of life. And it's kind of crazy to think that somewhere down south right there, there's about 20 people that are living that are somewhere under Gaza right now, and they have the dead bodies and all that. We went to Hostage Square. I spoke to a girl who is in captivity. It's beyond imagination. We're going to put the video up for you, but in captivity for 54 days. I spoke to one of the most elite soldiers who saved dozens of people that day, shot 7 times, doesn't have his bicep anymore. Like an unbelievable hero. But anyway, I thought we'll just walk. Let's just walk and talk. That's what we're going to do. Old school walk and talk. You know, when I started the Rubin Report way back when, this is how we started doing it, because we barely even had a studio and we would just do this kind of walk and talk thing. I'm going to slow down a little bit because we don't want Mr. Cameraman over here to collapse. Anyway, so here we are well, I'll talk a little bit also about some of the things going on back home, because I did wake up this morning and of course check Twitter, and there's obviously this horrific situation happening back home, which feels particularly bizarre to be here in Israel at the moment. You know, in Colorado, a illegal immigrant, sounds like from Egypt, got in the country in 2022, set several other people on fire while, of course, screaming free Palestine and all the usual nonsense. And so that was a bit of an odd day to be here while they're in the middle of a war. And as you can see, life goes on, right? Like life goes on here. And half of the people, it could be almost every male that you see on this beach that's over 18 has probably been to Gaza and served. You see some people that are limping or have other injuries or all sorts of stuff. And yet, they're in the middle of all that, and the place is vibrant and alive, and there's music, there's incredible food. We've been here for 2.5 days. I've probably had about 32 coffees. I did ask for a black coffee this morning. They're big on milk here, so somehow that's my black coffee this morning. But anyway, so that, you know, to wake up and see what happened in the United States of America, this is only, 2 weeks after that horrific shooting of the 2 people at the Israeli embassy. And when these people call for globalize the Intifada and river to the sea and all of these things, they're talking about killing all of these people. All of these people. And there are Muslims here. I was sitting next to 2 Muslim girls in traditional Muslim garb, actually speaking Hebrew. which was kind of interesting. Just over here a few minutes ago, there are Muslims here, there are Druze, there are Baha'i, there are atheists, there are Christians, and everyone's living peacefully here. This is actually the only place in the Middle East. The UAE is kind of doing it. It's at least on its way a little bit, that has anything like that. And that's the strange thing about the modern left, the progressives. The progressives love tolerance and diversity and all of these things. And actually, the place they hate the most is the only place in the Middle East, basically, that has any of those progressive ideals. If you've been seriously injured, your case could be worth millions, and you should know exactly what your rights are. That's why I want to tell you about Morgan & Morgan. They're America's largest injury law firm with over 1,000 attorneys working in all 50 states. Unlike a lot of firms that settle quickly, Morgan & Morgan doesn't take lowball offers from private insurance companies. Just in the past few months, they won $12 million in Florida when the insurance company offered only $350,000. And in New York, they secured $6.8 million on a case where the offer was just $275K. And the best part, it's absolutely free unless you win. Insurance companies try to pay out as little as possible. Morgan & Morgan fights to get you more. It only takes a few minutes to see if you have a case, and you can do it right from your phone. It's that easy. I saw a clip this morning of Real Time with Bill Maher over the weekend. You didn't think I was not going to somehow talk about Bill, did you? And I know he had Jake Tapper on, and I watched their conversation. And Jake, I think, is really starting to see what time it is and wake up to some of what he's been part of and everything else. And, you know, I've said repeatedly on the show that I don't consider Jake a bad actor. I think he's probably a decent human. Yes, I've made fun of him a lot. We've done 5 weeks of Douchebag of the Week, and he's won 2 of those awards. But I see that he does seem to be earnestly waking up. And I always, because of my own journey and everything else, I always want to be sensitive to that sort of thing. So I do, in the spirit of peace and everything else, because Jake is going on every show, I would like to welcome Jake to come on my show. And of course, I will treat him as I treat every guest, which is with respect and decency. And if I've said anything untoward about him over the years, it was always in a kind of jokey manner as I was making a point, right? Like that doesn't excuse any of the sort of cover up that he was involved in as it relates to Biden. But I would have no problem apologizing to his face for that. But I would love to build some bridges. I don't know if I'm just feeling that spirit in the Holy Land right now. But that's a bit of a side. So Jake, if you're watching, let's sit down, because we need alliances right now. We need good people that are that want to come together and put all this nonsense on the side. Like, otherwise look where all of our countries are going, all of our countries. Like in America, are we just going to wake up every 2 weeks and, okay, they shot these 2 people and they burned these women and children and, oh, it's happening to the Jews now, but you guys know it never stops with the Jews. And then they'll do it again to somebody else and again and again and again. And we'll end up shredding all of the good things that our ancestors came here and built and all of that. So maybe it is because I'm in the Middle East. I'm feeling like a little bit let's do some peace. Let's do some peacemaking. They're really trying to do it here. So let me put that there. Just put a pin in that for now. So Jake, I'd love to do it. But, as far as the peacemaking and all that, and the endless focus on this place, every time I talk about Israel, I always bring up what a small country is. It's the size of New Jersey. New Jersey, its borders are only a couple miles wide left to right. It's absolutely tiny. And yet you can be at the beach and then ski in the mountains in the north, sometimes depending on what season it is. It's rather extraordinary. It's also, they have the Dead Sea, which we're going to tomorrow, which is literally the lowest place on earth where you can, float in the salt. You can't even swim. But it's so absolutely tiny. And everyone that I've talked to here, and I've tried to talk to people across the political aisle, I've actually tried not to talk about politics that much. There's a certain amount of talking about the war. Like, what do you do? And almost everybody says the exact same thing, regardless of young or old or whatever it might be. Young or old, left or right, male or female, it doesn't matter. Everyone basically says the same thing, which is they just want the hostages back. That's it. They don't want to be at war. They want nothing to do with the Palestinians. Like, obviously, if you get the hostages back, there's still a problem in Gaza for sure. You could build the tallest wall ever, and maybe that's what they have to do. And They'll figure out some other things. But if anyone wants this war to end, all these people, the river to the sea people, the free Palestine people, the globalized the Intifada people who were burning up people in America and taking over London and taking over France and everything else, like, if you want peace, which I don't really think they want, actually, but if you want Gazans not to be killed anymore, just release the hostages. It could literally end while I'm doing this video right now. And what you have to think about is, why do none of those people call for that? And the sad truth, and it's just a sad truth, is they don't want peace, right? They want a piece of this. And by a piece of this, I mean they want all of it, right? I mean, you go through the history of this place, and there was never a country. I mean, I know you guys watching this know this, but there never was a country of Palestine. There was the British Mandate of Palestine that was part of the British Empire. Before that, it was part of the Ottoman Empire. There are headlines. Oh, I can show you here. So these are some of the hostages. Well, several. There's the Bibis baby. So several of them no longer alive. But you'll see, Joey, maybe you can scan over here for a second. You'll see, I don't even know. In some places, you'll see these ribbons everywhere, and you'll see the pictures everywhere. And in some places, they'll put something on the picture that will say whether they're alive or dead, or where they released, or whatever it might be. These two, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I might be mistaken, so someone can check this on me, but I think these two are brothers. And if I'm not mistaken, these are the two brothers who, when Hamas released the coffins of the Bibis family in that most sadistic, twisted thing that they did, what was that, 2 months ago? They took those brothers there, told them they were being released in a car, videotaped it, and then brought them back in. I mean, it's just unimaginable, some of the things they were doing. I talked to the hostages who lived in the most psychotic, broken legs, getting surgeries just so that they could stay alive, but no anesthesia, because they would prefer the hostages be alive. Being told that, if they're about to be rescued, that they're just going to shoot them in the head. The glee, one of the girls was just talking about the glee that these people endlessly had because they had a Jew. And ironically, one of the girls I talked to also, she was Arab. Her mom's from Morocco. So she even knew Arabic. She knew how to talk to these people. And it's just pure evil. And to see now, nobody wants war here. Really, nobody. There were no Jews in Gaza beforehand. No one wanted anything to do with Gaza. But this whole idea that the war should end now, or they should stop, or Israel is being so mean, or all of these things, like, what would be more righteous than for a country to get its citizens back? What's the purpose of a nation state, right? And I would say that about any nation on earth. Like, it is your duty to protect your citizens. So for all these people that are like, Israel should just wrap it up and they should stop bombing and blah, 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 they're doing it for the most righteous reason you possibly could, which is to save what I think they now believe is 20 living hostages. And I think there's about 60 bodies they would like to retrieve as well. So they have to keep going. They know they have to keep going. They can't stop, and they can't listen to Macron or any of these other ridiculous European leaders. I mean, I saw videos last night of Paris just absolutely burning because of the jihadists on their street. And it's like, Macron, you want to point to Israel so that it's like giving catnip to the people in your country to keep them from coming for you. And it's the same thing in the UK. You have a huge jihadist problem, and you think, we'll just kind of throw the Jews under the bus. That'll buy me a little bit more time, but they're still going to come for the palace. Then having just been in Hungary, where they've closed the borders, right? They've closed the borders. They know who's in their country. And because of that, it is safe, and they are defending themselves. And one of the things that I found out in Hungary is that they are paying 1 million euros a day to the EU in fines because their borders are closed. So that means they pay 365 million euros a year just to protect their own sovereign borders. That's how evil all of this stuff is. We got into that with Viktor Orban. But every country has a right to defend its borders and defend its people. So this idea, so you want the war to end? I would like the war to end. Literally everybody here, it's the same thing over and over. But particularly in Hostage Square, which they have now. It's every single day. Hundreds and often thousands of people show up on Saturday nights after Shabbat. That's when we were there, and that's when it really starts getting busy, and it becomes, there's huge speeches and music and all of these things. And they have one of the cars there that was burned out and had an RPG hit it, and it's literally unimaginable stuff. The girl was telling me about the lice she had on her arm, and she would drink literally one capful, not a cup, a capful of water a day for several days while she was down there, and eat moldy pita while they would make her cook food for them. I mean, it's unbelievable. So anyway, so it seems to me that regardless, you don't care about the Jews, that's fine. But if you care about Western civilization, if you care about nations being able to protect their borders, which now we're all dealing with, it's very, I suppose, poignant that I went from one country in Europe that's kind of doing it right and seeing the success in that, and then to this place that is fighting for its life every day. It seems like Europe, it seems to me, is just sleepwalking into a slow death, right? They're not doing any of the right things. They don't know how to protect themselves. It's very sad. I wish they would. And most native Europeans wish they would. There's nothing wrong with British culture. There's actually a lot of great things about British culture. There's nothing wrong with French culture, but they seem unable to defend themselves. And then at the same time, as I said a moment ago, then they feel the need to pile on this place where not too far from here, because it's so small, a guy named Jesus was born. And this place where the Jews, every single Jew, if you're the most secular, non-religious, non-believer, whatever, what do? You celebrate Hanukkah during Christmas time, right? And what's the story of Hanukkah? It's the Jews defending the Judean hills from the Greek invaders. And every Jew celebrates that. And then these awful, I would say, jihad adjacent Congress people that we have, like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and AOC, they will wish Jews a happy Hanukkah. And then they also don't want Jews to live in the Judean hills. It's absolutely absurd. I should also note that 20% of Israel is Arab. They are Israeli Arabs. They have complete equal rights. They are allowed to vote. There is no apartheid or anything like that. There are disputed territories in Judea and Samaria because when the British Empire ended, it offered a partition plan. It said, we'll split the land between the Jews and the Arabs. There were no people called Palestinians at that time. When people talked about the Palestinians, they meant anyone that lived here. So the Arab countries, you can see New York Times headlines from the 30s, the Arab countries used to boycott Palestine because that's where the Jews lived. The coin of Palestine from the 30s has Hebrew on it. And it says, Am Yisrael Chai, the land of Israel, or Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. So people are completely confused about the history, of course. They're completely confused about the reality here. And I think that's why we're here, to clean up some of that. But it's not, in some sense, what I've really started realizing is it's not because I'm here defending this place. It's very honorable and should be defended, and they have every right to defend themselves, as I said. But in some sense, I really see now more clearly than I've ever seen the connection between what is going on here and now what has started to happen in all of the Western countries. This is just, for lack of a better term, this is ground zero. It's the tip of the spear of what is happening with worldwide jihad, the alliance between Marxism and progressivism and jihad. Like, it's all of these things that we're all feeling. So these guys, when I woke up this morning and I saw the story out of Colorado, and it's like, you just start becoming numb to it. So, okay, as I said earlier, every 2 weeks, these type of things will happen. Well, these guys here, we're walking up on Jaffa in a little bit. I was in Jaffa probably about 10 years ago when they just had stabbings every day. They were just random people stabbing people. That's happening in London now, but they survived that. They survived waves of suicide bombings, people that just blew themselves up on buses and in discos and in coffee shops over and over, and they survived all that. And then we see more of that in Europe and in the United States. And so these things are just deeply connected. If this place goes down, you don't have to care about the Jews. You really don't. But everyone that wants to live freely should care about freedom, and you should care about liberty. And if this place goes down, this is the little Satan, as they say. America's the big Satan. But if this place goes down, you think all of the bad forces that we're talking about are just going to be like, all right, guys, let's go home. Wrap it up. We got rid of those pesky Jews in the Middle East. No, then it's game on for everybody. It's so obvious. And I think it's one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee, which is kind of scary, I suppose, and depressing.
You guys know I'm all about logic and reason, and here's some simple logic. If your feet are killing you at the end of the day, you need new shoes. That's why I love G-Defy shoes by Gravity Defyer. They're built on real science, not trends. Their patented Verso Shock technology absorbs harmful shock, returns energy, and is designed to align your body and makes walking, running, and standing feel effortless. Whether you're out and about or just on your feet all day, G-Defy makes every step better. Right now, you guys can get 30% off orders over $120. Just text Rubin30 to 91888 or visit gdefy.com and use code Rubin30 at checkout. Use logic, choose comfort, G-Defy.
The thing that I said a moment ago about the Europeans just kind of sleepwalking or just dying a slow death, watching the slow death of their countries. Douglas Murray wrote The Strange Death of Europe. He wrote that 10 years ago, probably. It's like they're just going along with that. And these guys, they are out there fighting every second. So I guess to wrap this up, I would say, how about this? If you disagree with everything I said here and you're watching this and this guy freaking Rubin and Israel and blah, all the stuff, right? How about this? You want the war to end? How about instead of chanting river to the sea, because this place is never going to be erased. It's never going to be erased. It's eternal. It's been here. It will always be here. How about instead of chanting that, you just take all of that energy and all of those signs, and instead of locking Jewish students from entering campus at Columbia and Harvard and all of the evil that we've now seen proliferated everywhere, how about you just start chanting, release the hostages? And if you get the hostages released, it all ends. So if you love the Palestinians, which of course these people don't love the Palestinians, the Gazans, they don't love them. Nobody, not one person. Egypt has a border with Gaza. They could have opened it up on October 8th and saved everybody, but they don't love them. They don't love them, and we all know that. No Arab country wants these people. Why is that? Why is that? So there's a lot of hope here. There's a lot of hope here, and I hope people will start seeing that and see that something really beautiful. This is what the Gazans on October 6th, their beach looked pretty close to this. Their buildings looked kind of close to this, and they chose to throw it all away. And Israel is now fighting the most psychotic. They're fighting a war that no other Western nation has ever had to fight in their life, while being told that they shouldn't fight the war, that they should leave their own people, that they should feed the people who are trying to kill them. No other country would be asked any of these things. They're asked these things, and they're just going to keep fighting. Like that's more clear than anything else. If I've learned anything while I'm here, these people will not stop fighting for their existence. And in some sense, they're fighting for all of our existences. And that's just the truth. So we have a show tonight, and I think it's sold out already, but we've got a show tonight. If there are a couple tickets, maybe you can still snag them. DaveRubin.com/events. That's in Tel Aviv tonight. We'll be in Jerusalem in 2 days from now. I don't even know what day it is. Today's Monday. On Wednesday, the 4th, we'll be in Jerusalem, and we're going to go to the Wall again in the Church of Holy Sepulchre. And as I said, we're going to go down to the Dead Sea and do a bunch more. We're working on a couple interviews that we're going to put together. And there you go. Shalom.